Hey everyone, so today it's another video for showing you how to reduce or literally remove tiling on a landscape in Unreal with shaders. So we've all seen multiple techniques. There's the cell bombing method, which basically just offsets the textures. Um, I've made a new one which allows me to do a rotation per cell as well. So you will have the um, offset and the rotation. So as you can see, there's a cell rotation amount, cell offset amount, and the tiling of the texture. So the texture is super easy. I'm gonna go very, very, very quickly over it. So in Designer, I prefer Designer. You can literally alter it wherever you want. I don't care. Personally, I prefer Designer. It's super easy and very easy to do and to understand what I'm plugging into each channel. But basically, I'm using cells. I'm doing an edge detect, flood fill, and flood fill random color. And I simply use a distance node to make sure that the edge between them is not cutted by a black pixels. Um, I have the bevels. So I use a bevel on the edge detect to go make a zone in between that is going to be black. And I put it in the alpha of the texture over here. Um, And so now I have random values of colors in R and G and B um, on the texture. So after you're done with that, you can put it into Unreal. I put it as a mask over here, so you can see mask. I import it as a mask texture. It's a 4K. You could honestly you could do it 2K. You could maybe honestly even do it 1K. I don't think it would really matter since it's blurry anyway. Um, and so I have these two values, R and G, which are going to be used to offset the texture, the UV of the texture, and the blue channel, which in my case is going to be rotating, and the alpha, which is going to be blending between the two UV sets, or two UVs, two texture applied on the material. You'll understand it when I'll show it to you. So basically what I do is I make the texture tile very, very large on the landscape or the terrain or whatever. It's really, 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 it's a big texture. I think it's currently, if I let it to 1, it covers 1 kilometers. Um, and then I append X and Y, so it gives me a result of, like I told you, the thing used. It strangely looks like UVs, right? So I'm doing this to offset the UVs. I multiply by the offset amount so I can change how much it will offset, which is the input parameter. Um, and then I do something that some people might not understand why. I'm doing a multiply by 2 and subtract 1. Basically, this is to bring my 0 to 1 values to a -1 to 1 values so that my UVs doesn't always offset like upwards and towards the left. It will also go downwards and towards the right. The reason for this is because UVs go from negative value to positive values, and so you want them to go from -1 to 1 as well, and you can multiply them afterwards, but multiplying by 2 and subtracting 1 is the way to make the texture go from -1 to 1. And then I add that to the UVs. The UVs that is an input, so for your material function that would be necessary as well. And I also have the custom rotator, so this is being used with the blue channel. I'm basically saying to the material over here how much I want the UV to be rotated from the center of the world. Um, and I have an intensity input of that, so the rotation amount. The rotation is in 0 to 1, so 1 is a full 360 degrees, so 0.5 wouldn't be a 180. So it's not in degrees, it's just the rotation amount. So all of these three and the alpha are being output to the are output to the material function. and they are being used over here. So I have the modified UVs on which I would plug into my two textures. For me, my two textures are packed a little weirdly. So I have an albedo and an X channel, the X channel of the normal in the alpha, and I have the Y channel of the normal in the alpha of the other one, roughness, height, occlusion. No matter what the texture packing you're using, this will work. You don't need to have a two texture packing. I've done them like that for at least like multiple months, and they are, in my opinion, as good as a three texture packing. Um, and they are it's a texture less, so I prefer it this way. But also because it's texture sample reduced, because I have, for that you will need to sample each textures twice, because like I told you, you have the modified UVs as well as the original UVs. So you will have your texture tiling on the landscape that you want. So for example, for me, this texture is going to be covering a 4 meters range because I'm dividing the world position into 100 values. So one value in 100 is 1 centimeters. So dividing it by 100 gives me a meter, and 0.25 multiplied by a meter gives me 4 meters. So the texture will be tiling every 4 meters. And that UV is plugged here, which is having the UVs offsetted, rotated, sorry, and then offsetted, and then it goes out, plugs into this one, and then you just have to do your normal on both of them. And this one is simply using the original UVs. And the alpha is lerping, so the alpha mask is lerping between the offsetted one and the non-offsetted one. If you introduce the rotation in it, you could not add the rotation. It would still honestly work. If I remove, let's say I go into the material and I completely remove the rotation. Oops. Visual tiling is still a little bit there. But basically it's not very visible. You don't, you can definitely tell that there's some lines that are always on the same direction. But just that is very good. But if you're adding rotation, you're adding another little complicated thing that you need to do, since normal are not good with rotating. When you're rotating the UVs, they don't rotate themselves. So you have to fix that. And to fix it, keep the value that you have between 0 and 1 over here. So you just have to keep the value between 0 and 1 that you used basically here to plug it into another material function just for the UVs or just for the texture that you have offsetted and rotated. So let's go see what it looks like. Looks like that. So it's basically just math formulas that make the texture that make the normal fixed based on a value that is from 0 to 1, like I said. If you want to have it in degrees, you can. Just make sure that when you're plugged in inside of that, you divide by 360 to bring it back to 0 to 1. I don't know why you would want it in degrees. Like let's say you wanted to actually modify UVs for a mesh. Maybe now you would want degrees, but for a landscape, you don't really need the degrees specifically. And so with that, it's going to fix the normal. If I don't introduce that, I can just show you what it looks like. It will kind of look weird. Actually, won't just kind of look weird. It will look weird. If I can just find... Have I even rotated anything? Oh, no, I'm not even rotating anything. That's why. So as you can see, look, the normal are all like pointing in weird direction. They have weird directionality when it's not supposed to be like that. That is what's happening when you have a broken normal map. It looks like there's, I don't know how to explain. It's just off. It looks off. And so that's why you need to fix the normal in order to make it work. As you can see now, it looks way better. It looks normal. Um, and so that's how it works. Super easy to do. Oh my God, super easy to add. And then what you just need to do is lerp between, so with the mask, so the zero area, so the A, zero on a lerp, zero is A and one is B. So one is going to be the rotated version, and A is going to be the normal UVs, the UV that is just tiling normally. The reason why you want to do a cell bomb, so like the actual textures, like that, is because if you keep straight lines, so let's say you just added cubes of random colors, you would see a line tiling over here because the texture is still in those gray area over here. The texture is still tiling normally, so that's why cell bomb is an excellent way to break the tiling even more. So that's basically it. Honestly, after you've done that, you literally have a very, very great way to break tiling on a landscape, and you can do this to any layers. You can do this to, um, you can use that for landscape. If you're doing like a icy lake, that could be used to for snow, for any textures. As soon as it's not a texture that is like pavement or um, or you know, stuff that have a specific arrangement. If it's just grass, moss, snow, dirt, gravel, whatever, sand, it doesn't really matter unless your sand has a direction on it, but it doesn't really matter because they're all just noise. It's just a noisy ground texture that is um used. It is good looking. You need to make your texture good looking, but you also need to make it non visually tiling, otherwise it breaks the immersion and it breaks the look of the environment. It's kind of weird when you look at an environment and you have like specific lines going through your landscape. It just looks off and bad in my opinion. So that's why I would recommend adding cell bombing. It is a great method to break tiling, and it's relatively inexpensive. If you're using RVT, it would be even less expensive. Um, but just sampling the texture twice is good enough for a landscape. So that's it. Thank you so much.